Hello and a very warm welcome. You are listening to Widowed AF, your podcast about widowhood. I'm your host, I'm Rosie Moss, and I'm here all the time. Joining me today, I've got Julie Farrin. Hello, Julie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And you're in Essex, aren't you? I don't know why, but I like to know where you all are.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in Colchester, Essex.
Thank you. And we just had a little chat because I did a quick Google, as I do sometimes, and I noticed that Julie's husband, wasn't he? It was your husband, yeah. That he was from literally around the corner from me. I really like when there's these kind of weird little serendipity connections. So, Julie, I know, as always, I know the bare bones of your story. I know that your husband was called Andy, and I know that he died from a brain tumour, but really that's kind of all I know. There is one thing you put in your application that I've written down here, and it says, some days I think I can handle it, and some days I don't know if I can keep going. And that gave me shivers because, oh my God, we all feel like that, don't we, in this? It's some days I feel I can take on the world, and other days I just want to hide. So I really related to that. And I'm really, really looking forward to hearing your story. So I'll shut up now, Julie. And if you want to, just tell me how you met Andy. Let's go right back to the beginning.
I think it is kind of a funny story, I guess. So we worked together. We both worked in utilities. He was a project engineer and I worked in the office. So I used to kind of plan where all their jobs went. And he was kind of shy and quiet and never really said kind of boo to a goose. I'm not really like that at all.
Opposites attract.
Very much so. So yeah, we sort of worked together for about 6-8 months, and all the girls I worked with kept saying, he really likes you. I was like, absolutely not.
We're always the last to know, right?
Yeah. I was like, no. I was like, he's not my type. Like because he was 11 years older than me. And I was like, oh, I've, never really been out with like an older man.
An old dude.
Like, yeah. I was like, no. And it all kind of started as a bit of a joke. And I'd been on it's my first foray into online dating. And I'd been on a horrible online date, came into the office and I was like, it was torture and blah, blah, blah. And one of the other engineers was like, what about Andy? He is obsessed with you. And I was like, oh no, don't be silly.
Oh, nice.
I was like, no. And we just kind of started chatting and emailing, and I kept saying to him, you don't want to go out with me. I'm crazy. Like, I'm really high maintenance. You don't want this drama in your life. And he just kept on and on. I was like, no. And he sent a massive bunch of flowers to our office.
Mm.
And I was very much like, oh, okay, maybe let's do lunch. Even then I tried to get out of it, and I was speaking to one of my very, very dear friends, one of my oldest friends, and I was like, I don't have the money, I can't really afford lunch. She's like, shut up, there's 40 quid, go and have lunch with this guy. And he just, I don't know, like he just hooked me in, like he just wouldn't give in. And then we'd go out for drinks, and the more I got to know him and kind of behind the shy, quiet, because he was so kind of shy and quiet, a little bit socially awkward at times. But when you kind of got beyond that, he was just the kindest, most loving man that you could ever. And I'm sure everybody says that about their partners, but
I've heard some others.
But it's like I was talking to another one of my very, very dear friends a couple of days ago. She's been staying with me, and we were talking about Andy. And she was like, he was basically a unicorn. She's like, he was just one of those men that just don't really exist in real life. Like, he was kind and funny and selfless and so romantic and so thoughtful and so sweet, but he could dig a hole and build stuff and fix stuff and look after you and, sling you over his shoulder. And yeah, he was...
You are selling him to me, actually.
He just adored me. Like, I've spoken at length. I've been in counselling for like 2 years, and
good for you.
I am a massive advocate. Massive.
Took me a while, but once I got in, I've been in 3 years now. She's stuck with me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, same. I mean, my counsellor she's incredible, and it's been a journey. But yeah, I I'm a massive advocate of being in counselling. It's helped me so much. But when we've talked about it, and she was like, you were his queen and he adored you, and it was like there was absolutely nothing that man wouldn't have done for me. Absolutely.
You're going to make me cry, and we've not even got to the tough bit
I
yet,
know.
Julie. It's because I know how the story ends.
I know. But yeah, it was, and it's always a funny story. Like, even like when we got married, and I did the speech because he's not the outspoken one, and and I was like, despite, I think I did swear. I am a bit sweary.
Oh, you know what the podcast is
Yeah.
called, right? You're in good company.
But I think I did. And I kind of said, despite the fact that he asked me out numerous times and I repeatedly told him to fuck off, he would not give up, and he would not. And he kind of said, he was like, I knew then I was going to marry you.
And he didn't want to let you slip through his fingers. Oh, this is so romantic.
Yeah, he was just, like a unicorn. Like, people, I say he's kind of one in a million, and he was. But his dad, I'm still really, really close with his parents, and that's where he got it from. Him and his dad are just two peas in a pod, and his dad is exactly the same, maybe a little bit more outgoing than Andy was, but just so kind and so selfless. And I mean, his dad is 80 now, and they came to stay with me because I've recently had a hysterectomy.
Oh gosh,
like 3 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness, how are you feeling?
Doing okay. Like, I'm doing okay. It's been a tough few weeks.
But anything like that without your person is horrible, because who's there to look after you? I think that's one of the things when you're widowed, is you're like, well, I can't get ill. I can't, nothing can happen, because who will take care?
Yeah. I'm very fortunate. I have an amazing circle. My friends Sam and Dana I've known for like 25 years. They've both been here, like my live-in carers.
Nice.
And Andy's parents came and stayed with me for a week to look after me. Yeah, they are.
Do you know what? That's so refreshing, because unfortunately in this job, I hear a lot of relationships with in-laws break down, and it's often not even anybody's fault. People behave very out of character when they're grieving. I know I did. Fortunately, I didn't manage to alienate my in-laws, but they're by the seat of my pants in a lot of cases. And I think to hear that you've still got a really nice relationship with them, because I don't know if this is sensitive, but you don't have children, do you?
No.
Because often when there's grandchildren involved, the grandparents might be a little bit more hands-on. Julie, he sounds amazing.
He was, literally one of a kind. And it was losing him. Yeah, I mean, it broke me in a million different ways. And, I have days where I don't feel like I can keep going, but there are days when I just think, I got 8 years with this amazing man.
Yeah. And there's a lyric from a Whitney Houston song, and it's "The ride with you was worth the fall, my friend." And I always think that, it was worth it. The pain, the suffering, the lying on the floor thinking, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I got to spend 14 years with that man.
Yeah. I think for me, it's probably also a little bit cliche. I can't remember what season of Bridgerton it was. Might have been the first season. And the mum, the dad, Mr. Bridgerton, when he dies, and the eldest son's really upset about it, and you didn't recover, Mum. And she was like, but I loved him, and I would do it all over again, knowing the outcome. And I was like, that, and I would.
And it's true, isn't it? And I would, even if I knew what was coming. I mean, I'd have hugged him a bit harder the night before, I tell you that. But I would have done it all again in a heartbeat. Yeah. Now, I noticed in your application that Andy died in February 2023, but he'd had this brain tumour for 3.5 years. So that's a long time. I mean, it's not long enough, but it's a long time to live with somebody that's going to be deteriorating quite significantly. And I suppose the next thing I'd quite like to ask you about is what drew him to go to the doctors? Because we all know what men are like with the doctors. What happened? What were the symptoms?
He had a seizure. I mean, to kind of go into a bit of detail.
No, do. I like detail.
Timing was cruel at best, because we got married in May 2019, and spent a small fortune on just this most incredible wedding. We got married in North Devon, a place called Woolacombe.
Oh, I know.
Which was a bit rogue, but my dad passed away 11 years ago. It was his favourite place. We scattered his ashes on Woolacombe Beach, and I was like, that's where I need to get married.
Oh, you're killing me, Julie.
Sorry.
You're giving me all the feels. Stop it.
So we got married in the May. Then we went on our honeymoon, went to Dominican Republic for 2 weeks, which was fabulous.
Nice.
So we kind of came back in the June, and then mid-July, he was at a friend's house helping him build some fencing and had a seizure, a pretty significant seizure. So the ambulance was called. I kind of rushed to the hospital because his friend came to get me. And so that all happened. They had the seizure. He had a slight history, it's before we were together, maybe 10 years prior, of like odd night seizures, but never anything really significant. He was on anti-seizure medication. So the seizure happened and they were like, it's developed, it's changing, which can happen, blah, blah, blah. We'll refer you to a neurologist and we'll do a few tests and stuff. And the wait for that was like NHS, 24 weeks, 26 weeks, whatever it was. At the time, fortunately, he had private healthcare through the company that he worked for. So we were like, let's do that.
If it's for anything, it's for this, right?
What it's there for. So we got an appointment very quickly. This was towards the end of July. Did an MRI, rang us up almost immediately, and we're like, we need you back in. We need to do an MRI with contrast. So that happened. Then they sent us to the hospital. That was on my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Lovely.
At which point, because at that stage, I was a bit like, it's probably just seizures, we're just being checking things, da 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 da.
Anything but, right?
I had spoken to my friend Dana. She's worked in healthcare all her life. Like I said, I've known her for like 20 plus years, and she's my kind of brutal honesty. Like, so I need to know, like, I'm an overthinker. I need to know, like, what are we talking best case, what are we talking worst case? And she was like, best case, it just could be this or that or blah. It could be a tumor, but there's all of these different kinds of blah, 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 blah. She was like, worst case, the worst of the worst, the nastiest of the nasty, glioblastoma. But it probably isn't that. Don't worry, don't panic. So, can
I just ask you, sorry, I really don't like interrupting, but just quickly, how was Andy at this point? What was his mood like?
I laugh, I do. I'm fine.
Of course,
I'm fine. I'm good. Don't panic. Don't worry. Don't be silly. His mantra, he said to me, even right at the end, darling, I'm going to be here in 50 years. I'm going to be with you for 50 years. At which point I would go, oh, I don't know, I've got another 50 years in me. It feels like a long time.
I'm done.
I'm tired already, dude. Like, he was just, it's good. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, it's not going to be a big deal. So we went to our local hospital and they said, oh, we need to do a CT scan. And my dad had kidney cancer. So I was a bit like, I kind of know the drill a bit. And I immediately was like, they're looking for other cancers. They're looking to see if there's something else going on. Because I had an understanding. I knew that kind of brain tumors typically were secondary. It's not, can be off the back of skin cancer and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, they're looking for something else. So that all happened. And then they booked in really, really quickly brain surgery because the tumor was right at the front of his head.
And at what point do they tell you that there's a tumor?
It was around the time so they'd done the CT scan and they were like, I think they might have said a mass. They were very vague at this point. And again, like I'd kind of been through that with my dad with his kidney cancer. They keep it very vague to begin with because they don't really know. They have an idea, but so they were like, right, we're sending you to Queen's Hospital in Romford, meet with a neurosurgeon. All of that, it was literally within the space of like 2 to 3 weeks that this was all happening, which again, for me, I was like,
It's going too fast,
this
right?
is going way quick, which is making me even more concerned. So yeah, he went in, had brain surgery. Even that, I think he had it Tuesday morning. By the Wednesday, he was like, I want to go home. I'm done. I'm like, they literally just go, when can I go home? I was like, not yet, babe. Like, seriously.
And did he look quite scary? Did they shave his head? And, you know,
well, they didn't have to, because they went in at the front. So they went in here. I said it was funny, the things that you laugh about.
Oh, of course, yeah, dark humour, right?
He was such a frowny. He was always a bit frowny, and I'd be like, what's the matter? And he's like, nothing. I was like, you all right? I'm all right. I was like, you want to tell your face? Cheer up. Like, what's wrong? He's always a bit frowny. So I was like, oh my God. I said, the surgeon even managed to get the scar in your grumpy frown line, so you can't even really see it. But yeah, bandage and all the kind of crazy stuff. But in himself, you wouldn't have really thought he'd been through what he'd been through. He was just like, I want to go home. I'm done now.
Isn't it crazy that he could have this tumour in his brain and there's been no symptoms? I mean, obviously a seizure is a fairly massive sign, but
nothing else.
That it would come from nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me about these things so much, is that you can be walking around with this killer inside you and not know.
I think the thing for me that used to really infect my head and really upset me is like, it was there when we got married. It would have been there.
It was lying in wait.
Yeah. And it, you know, this day, and we were planning our future together and how it was going to look and what we were going to do and try and have a baby and all of that stuff. And it was there that whole time. And it was really, really hard.
Feels personal, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I know it was the one thing, like because he was so chill and like, yeah, I'm good and I'm fine, even during radiotherapy and chemo and everything, that, yeah, I'm fine, it's okay, blah blah. And I was the one that was, you know, the meds and the appointments, and I knew the history, and I had, like, I'm a bit of a control freak, so it helped
me too.
Helped me deal with it. But the one thing in all of that I couldn't handle was seeing his brain scans, like actually seeing it on the scans. It almost made me feel like sick, like just to see this
thing that's trying to kill the person you love.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you talk about kind of, you do almost have to become an oncologist in this process, and that so many people find, comfort's not the right word, but I can't think of the right one, in being useful. Yeah. Because there's nothing you can't get in his brain and dig this thing out. So what you can do is you can advocate, you can make sure that his meds are taken at the right time. And it can become almost obsessive for people. Yeah.
And it was, I mean, numerous times we'd go for different appointments with different people. And I remember one, and we hadn't met this guy. It was a neurologist, I think. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I don't seem to have your history in front of me. And I was like,
don't worry.
And I went through everything, every single medication he'd taken, what dosage he'd had, like absolutely everything. And he was like, do you work in the NHS? And I was like, no,
should do,
but he is my main concern, and I need to know all of this, and I do know all of this. And I think, like you said, advocate. I mean, he did have another seizure just before he started his chemo post radiotherapy, and we had to take him to A&E. And I was with my father-in-law. His mouth was dropped open. So we went in, and they were like, oh, we're going to give you this milligram of your anesthesia, and we're going to give you this much of steroids. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that steroid dose is too high. His oncologist has already said that. That dosage of this is not good enough, because he's already... My father-in-law was like, I was like, I know better than this random ER doctor. Like, I do know what he needs. And the doctor was like, oh, okay. I was like, and while you're at it, you can get his oncologist on the phone.
But isn't it scary that without somebody there who knew, that he could have been given the wrong dosage? Because, and I'm not blaming the the NHS doctors, because we know how overworked they are, but it's just the lack of transparency and communication with patient records and things. It's terrifying. Now, at what point? So he's had the surgery. At what point do you know what type of cancer this is?
So this would have been, it was right at the end of August, the August bank holiday weekend, or just before the August bank holiday weekend. So they'd done surgery, removed the tumour, as well. they say they get all of it out, but with a glioblastoma, this is not very technically explained, but the way I look at it is like a plant and the roots. So you kind of pull it up, but effectively the roots of it are still kind of there. So again, with the glioblastoma, even though they remove it, it's not a case of if it will come back, it's always a case of when.
And when did he know that it was the glioblastoma?
So that would have been, towards the end of August.
Oh, so this is the point when the surgery, sorry.
So they'd removed it, they did the biopsy, and they called us back to Queen's and said, we've got the results, come in. And we sat there, and the neurosurgeon, just very blasé, because they are, blah, blah, blah. We've done the biopsy. It's a glioblastoma, grade 4, Here's your Macmillan nurse. She will take it from
off you
here.
pop.
And that was it. And
I'm thinking about your friend that you spoke to in the early days and said, what's the best and worst case scenario? And she told you that a glioblastoma, put my teeth back in, glioblastoma, and presumably stage 4 is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So she said to you, this is the worst case scenario, but don't worry, this rarely happens. And you're now sitting in the doctor's office being told, oh God, that the worst thing on this list is what your husband has. Yeah. Jesus, that must have been so frightening.
I think, blood run cold is not even close to, I just, all of it, my heart evaporated, my stomach dropped, you're kind of, I don't know, am I dreaming? Am I in a trance?
Yeah, out of body.
Yeah. And, the kind of planner in me, and you kind of click in and right, I need to take notes and what next and now what and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, when I think back to that day, it's just, you're just waiting to wake up.
Pinch me, wait.
Yeah. Surely I'm going to wake up. This is a horrible nightmare.
And how about Andy?
He didn't believe it.
Oh, denial.
Massively. Even, so that all happened, and they then referred us back to our local hospital for planning radiotherapy and chemo and stuff. And he was like, oh, it's just a precaution. And I was like, darling, chemo radiotherapy is poisonous. They're not
doing it precautionary.
They're not doing it precautionary. Babe, I don't believe it. No.
Now, and again, I don't want to be insensitive, but when something like this happens and the person who is sick either doesn't want to talk about it or doesn't want to accept it, you kind of have to respect that, because it's ultimately, this is their train that they're on, and they're getting off at a different station to us. But it must make it very difficult, because obviously you can't really talk about end of life planning. You can't talk about, getting your legal paperwork in order. And I'm a sudden death widow. So I always think, well, if we had time to plan, we could have had these conversations. But of course, that doesn't always happen. So I'm just thinking about the sort of psychological impact on you because you must have almost been carrying the worry and the grief for both of you in order to try and protect him. And I'm sort of hypothesizing, but I can sort of see that, you took a lot on your chin here.
It was, and it wasn't even just him, not that his family or friends, I don't think it's so much that they were in denial, and maybe they were to a point, but it was very much, he can beat it, he can fight. And I was inundated with helpful case studies and
cannabis, oxygen,
all of this stuff.
And you take the cannabis.
yeah I'll take that. All of these different options and studies, and I found this guy that's lived 20 years post glioblastoma, and I knew there were some, I think it's 1 or 2% that do go on, that they don't have a recur or haven't yet had a recurrence, but it is literally it is 1 to 2%. And hope
in these situations can actually be more harmful in some ways, because you then don't prepare for what's coming.
I think I did carry a lot, because other than my friend Dana, pretty much I could, whenever I tried to voice to most anyone, I'm scared of when he's going to die. I don't know how that's going to go. oh, don't be negative and just, be in the moment and it's going to be okay. And there were times when I just wanted to scream. Like, I don't need hallmark platitudes. I just need somebody to sit with me and be like, this is shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it
that
sucks and it's horrible. It's not going to get any easier. Like, we're here for,
we'll hold your hand all the way, but this is tough. And I think it sounds really horrible, but toxic positivity, when you need to be sad and people kind of, not that they won't let you, but they want, and they think they're doing the right thing. It doesn't come from a place of harm in any way. But yeah, you, in that point, you just, people would say to me when Ben died, oh, you're young, you'll meet someone. I'm like, I don't need to hear this right now. At his funeral, I kid you not.
Oh my God.
I know, right? I won't tell you who it was because it was a family member. But...
Oh no, my favourite thing that I got, because when he was first diagnosed, because we'd been talking about having a family and trying for a baby and blah, blah, blah. So when he was diagnosed, we made the decision to freeze his sperm.
Yeah.
I think for me, the minute I heard those words, it's a glioblastoma, I was like, no, this is not the right thing to do. I would love to have a family with him. I wanted a family. I didn't just want a baby. I cannot bring a child into this world knowing that it will probably never get to know its father. I just can't do that. Like, it just did not sit well with me. But we kind of went through the process. And I swear to God, 2, maybe 3 people, literally, he was dying in my house. And they were like, do you think you might use the sperm and have a baby?
Bit busy right now.
Yeah. Got a lot going on. Don't really feel this is the time. And again, I think around his funeral, same question from somebody else. Do you think you'd do that?
You become public property, don't you? You become public property. Everybody has an opinion and lots of it's well-meaning, but it's like, dude, just let me grieve, right? Let me grieve the man that's dying before I contemplate having a pregnancy on my own.
Yeah. And again, I, like you said, the toxic positivity, I understand it comes from a place of love. I think it also comes from a place of awkwardness. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about loss. Makes people really uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to deal with it. I am not like that.
Not me, funnily enough.
Kind of never been like that. I sadly have lost, I lost my, ironically, not ironic, I lost my best friend when I was 14 to a glioblastoma.
No. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Is it you?
I do feel like the Black Widow sometimes. Like after my dad passed away 11 years ago and like lost Andy, and my friends we've got a very twisted sense of humor, and they're like, I feel like I should get some life insurance. Like, being your friend is dangerous. Like,
I think they're right.
What's this going to be for us? But yeah, like I think going through something like that at such a young age, I've always been very open about death, and I've kind of had to, like, in weird ways, I've kind of walked hand in hand with it a lot of my life. And so I get it. I get that it's awkward, but I sometimes like to push people a little bit.
Oh, do you like to drop the bomb sometimes when you're talking to someone? Yeah, me too. Me too. Even 7 years in, yes. And sorry, I had a question then and it just dropped out of my head. I was so busy listening to you.
It's okay.
No, it's gone. It'll come back in a minute. Professional as always. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happens after a diagnosis. So he's had radio, chemo, so really debilitating, horrible treatments.
Yeah.
And at this point, realistically, do you think there's a chance he's going to live?
No.
So there must be something quite brutal watching somebody go through these treatments that ultimately, was the hope that they would give him more time?
Yeah. So he started he had 6 weeks of radiotherapy with concurrent chemo. So he had the radiotherapy with a very, very low dose of chemo because he had chemo tablets. Temozolomide. I'm impressed I still remember.
I know, wow. Can you spell it then?
It's just in there. So he had 6 weeks of that, and that took us up towards the end of 2019. And then timing as always. And then he started his chemotherapy January of 2020. at which point we went
Oh,
into lockdown.
oh gosh, yeah, I did see this in your application. It didn't register yes, of course. So you're going, or he's going through, I mean, you're cancer adjacent, so you're
Yeah.
going through it too, really, but he's going through serious cancer treatment in 2020. So does that mean you can't go to appointments and things, of course?
His oncologist was incredible. We did a few, so I think we had the first appointment in January, so we did go, and because he was having tablet form, in the end he used to, did he go? Yeah, he used to have to go and have a blood test prior, so yeah, I wasn't allowed to go for that. And then it got to, they were amazing, they would deliver his medication to the house.
Wow.
So we didn't have to go in. I mean, even before that, I think my biggest fear when kind of COVID hit was that they would stop treatment.
Yeah.
Because I know there were discussions around that, and for some patients I think they did, because the risk of their kind of immune system and stuff was so significant. Andy was an absolute warrior through all of his treatment. His radiotherapy, like I remember speaking to his oncologist, and I think he was like, because he had 6 cycles of chemo, and I think it was like cycle 3, and something he said, and he was like, well, can I go out and mow the lawn? And she was like, yeah. He was like, can I get up on a ladder and trim that? No, Andrew, no, with a hedge trimmer. She was like, I love your enthusiasm, but no, you can't do that. Can I go out on my bicycle? No, you can't do
Nothing that involves balancing.
Yeah, balancing, being on your own, like chainsaws. No, you can't do that. Bless you.
Can't blame a trier, hey?
No. But yeah, he fortunately he didn't have kind of the vomiting stuff or anything like that. He cycle 5 and 6, he was tired a lot. He slept a lot. He got very grumpy and frustrated because of that. But yeah, he just fought constantly to keep going and keep doing things. And I mean, the first, because so kind of basically what happened, he obviously had the tumor removed, radiotherapy, chemo. At that point, they gave us a prognosis of 12 to 18 months. He went 2 years, then he had, because he was having scans every 3 months, MRI scans every 3 months. So he went 2 years, and then he had his recurrence, and it had come back.
And I bet in those sort of 6 months outside of the predicted time, there must have been that real glimmer of hope for you two, thinking maybe we're that 1 in a million, maybe we're the ones that are going to beat this thing.
Yeah, because he was so strong and he was so determined. And, there was, I think deep down, like I said, losing my friend and my dad, I struggle to be positive when things like this happen. And I like to prepare. It's probably not the best thing to prepare for the worst.
I know, but it's a natural human instinct, because you're protecting yourself from the disappointment and the hope that shatters.
But I think there was that glimmer of hope. And I certainly for him, because he'd had to relinquish his driving license, which he was more pissed at that than the fact that he had a brain tumor. Like I need to drive, and he hated it. And he was 2 months away from getting his license back when he had the scan that showed that the tumor had come back. And then at that point, they gave us a prognosis of a year, and they were pretty much bang on. He just about made a year before it took over and took him.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we tried chemo, so yeah, that would have been 2022. So they tried a few different types of chemo. They did another round of radiotherapy. Unfortunately, where the tumor had grown back, it had then crossed over into the other hemisphere, so it wasn't operable at that point. So they tried the tumor. Glioblastoma is just brutally aggressive.
There was it's a story for another day, really, but there was when my son was in I think it was year 1, little boy died, and it was just awful. It came on so quickly. He was on a school trip, and the teachers noticed that he wasn't using one side of his body to climb on a climbing wall.
Yeah.
And it just, it makes your blood go cold. It's a horrible, horrible illness.
And it
Now,
can be there so quietly, and you don't know. There's no symptoms. There's, my friend that had it when she was young, she had they thought it was a lazy eye. And after a few tests and checks and blah, and they realised they got her to the hospital, but hers was on the brainstem, and there was nothing that
poor parents
really do.
And poor you as well, losing a friend, because we do. I had one guest on, Jen Plant, and she talked about the loss of her best friend and how kind of shattering that was. And I think loss of a friendship, it's something that we perhaps underestimate a bit. My best friend also died. We were a little older. God, we're jinx, aren't we?
Really.
We've set up some sort of commune safe house where we all just stay in a room together.
I think probably it's safest for everybody else.
But so you've talked about how amazing and strong Andy was, and he really sounds such a wonderful man. But I'm guessing that in this last year there will have been some severe degree of deterioration. Could you, insofar as you're comfortable, talk about what it was like living with him, how he found this experience? I mean, awful, I'm guessing.
Yeah, everyone always tells me off when I say fortunate, but I know other people's stories and other people's experiences of glioblastoma, and certainly what happened with my friend. But he, for the most part, remained relatively himself up until the November time of 2022. There were, when I think back now, I'm I think that was probably slight behavioral changes. He would be a little bit more snappy with me, or a bit not really there. He would kind of lose himself in his phone for hours on end sometimes. And it's awful, the things that you go through in your head and look back with guilt. And I used to put the fucking phone down, because I don't think I'd connected the dots that it was the tumour and changing his kind of behaviour. And then it was in the October, he completely ripped up our decking and replaced it and did all of that with his dad. So physically and to a degree mentally, I mean, when we had all the nurses and stuff that were coming out in the January and February to care for him, and I was like, he was doing that in October. I mean, he came to my work's Christmas party, which would have been right at the end of that November. And I remember having the conversation, because I'd worked that job for a really long time and everyone kind of knew what's going on. So when things started to get really bad and we knew we're kind of end of days time, the amount of people I don't get it. We saw him and he seemed fine. Like I said, looking back, there were little things he'd kind of space out and stuff. But then in mid-December of 2022, he got really ill. I didn't really know what happened, throwing up, and it felt a bit like a seizure, the way his behaviour was, but he was vomiting, diarrhea, really, really ill, which for all of my care, and I am not a good vomit person. I cannot handle it at all. And I was freaking out, at which point, because his parents live in Kent, so I'm ringing them. I'm like, oh my God, I'm taking him to the hospital, but they're sick everywhere. Blah. And my mum lives in an annex with me, and she's just as bad. So she's putting a face mask on, trying to clean it up, and rang an ambulance, and they were like, it'll be 8 hours. Okay, fine. Jesus. We'll get him to the hospital on our own. So he was admitted.
Plastic sheeting.
Oh, honestly. And his mother-in-law, Jackie, she has got no sense of smell. So she was the one sent into the room to clean and sanitize everything afterwards.
That's amazing. I need Jackie when my kids throw up.
Yeah, she was so good. But yeah, so they took him in, and we still don't know how. He had salmonella and COVID.
What?
Yeah.
And is that because his immune system was just so weak that anything can't be fought off?
Basically, yeah. And it was kind of from that point in the December that I lost a little bit of him every day, basically. And yeah, he started to struggle with incontinence, and we had to get nurses in. And I mean, even that though, I battled on for a good couple of weeks, changing the bedding a couple of times a night and getting him in the shower and doing all of that. Whilst I worked from home, so I was still working, logging on every morning. And yeah, I think I reached a breaking point after a couple of weeks, and I rang Adrian and Jackie, mother and father-in-law, and I was like, SOS, like I can't, I need help. I can't do this on my own now.
I'm glad you did.
It's a big thing. Like, I'm not the best at asking for help at times.
No. And it's really, really difficult, but people do want to help, don't they?
Yeah. So yeah, they came to stay, and pretty much they didn't leave then until they stayed here the whole time. And I think it was because of them, because towards the last few months, Andy had started to kind of accept, when he was still able to communicate and stuff. I said to him that we need to have some of these shitty conversations. Like, do you want to go in a hospice? Do you want to be at home? What do you want to do? Because there will come a point we need to make that decision. And he was like, a hospice, like, I don't want to put pressure on you. Honestly, the whole time, I think when he realised, when he was in hospital with salmonella, and he was talking to his Macmillan nurse, and she told me, I was like, is he okay? She was like, the only thing he is worried about is you and how you're going to cope without
this
him.
guy.
I know. He just, yeah, that was all he worried about. It wasn't him not being here or what that meant for it. Was just, how is she going to be okay? Like, I want her to be okay.
A lovely man. And as you talked about him, firstly getting the diagnosis, and you talked about, the children that you hope to have, the future. We talk a lot about, what you've lost, but you also lose your future and all these plans. And then he can't drive, so he's lost his independence. And then he's incontinent, and his wife is having to change him. Nobody wants that, do they? And I'm just thinking of this. I'm picturing him as a big, strong man. He might not have been, but that's how I'm picturing him. And that his identity is just being stripped away from him, and his dignity. And you're kind of just having to watch it happen. Like, you must have felt so helpless.
Yeah, it's
and tired.
Just so tired, and you want to fix it so much. You want to, like, there were periods of time, and it was kind of around just after Christmas, and they'd upped his steroids a bit, and I kind of remember going through similar with my dad, and you're like, oh, if we give him a bit more, is that going to give me bargaining? Like, can we just,
of course,
I remember sitting in the hospital car park when he was in with salmonella. God knows what anyone must have thought if they walked past my car, and I'm sat there having a cigarette, and I was screaming and crying, and I was begging anything, anyone, I'm not ready, not yet. I can't do this. Like, please, just a little bit longer, a little bit more time. And we did, but he didn't go until the February. But those few months, like I said, I lost a little bit of him every day, and as his ability to communicate kind of started to go, and he get his words muddled, and then he couldn't really say much of anything. He started to lose, like, mobility down one side and getting really muddled, and I remember him sitting there trying to roll a cigarette, but even that, he'd be trying to roll a cigarette and getting it all, and I'm like, come, let me, no,
I can do it.
I was like, okay, I'll leave you for another half an hour, bless you. Do you just, okay.
I'll hoover up after.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the most long drawn out grief and loss. It's, I don't know, I often think, because most of the people that I've lost has been in this way, it's an illness that has kind of gone on, and there are times when I'm like, surely it must be easier if it's just really sudden. But then, as you said, from a sudden perspective, you're like, surely if I had a bit of time, and I don't think there's any way that it's ever okay.
No,
It just
I
isn't.
think it's that constant debate. You know, I talk to a lot of widows. You know, John, his wife died from cancer. I'm a son. So you talk a lot into the night about, you know, what's worse. Would I have liked to say goodbye? Yes, I'd like to say goodbye. Would I have wanted him to suffer like Andy? No,
And
no.
it is like you said, losing his dignity and you know, having to have, you know, I remember because the house that we've got, we built an annex, so my mum's in an annex which is all kind of ground floor, and she's got a wet room and blah blah blah. So because Adrian and Jackie were here helping me, we made the decision that we were going to care for him at home. He was going to stay here with us. My mum, God love her, gave up her bedroom. She moved everything into her living room. So the district nurses and everyone kind of bought the hospital bed, and it had the ensuite wet room. It was, I mean, ironically, we designed it that way for my mum in her later years, not thinking for a second that we would be using it for Andy. But yeah, kind of when we had to get him down the stairs, because at that point he was really struggling, and it was me, Adrian, Jackie, 2 or 3 of the nurses, and he couldn't really use down one side, but he was still, you could see behind his eye, he was there. And I remember, like, I was kind of help moving his legs, and I looked at him and he's just like wide-eyed, like, what are you guys doing? Like, this does not, you could see this kind of look of worry, and I'm like, we're okay, it's okay, we're not going to let you fall. And but that, knowing that he was still there, but had no real control over what his body was doing, no real understanding, and that was, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Like, it's the hardest thing in the world to watch. And you know, I kind of went through it with my dad, that watched this big strong man that could conquer the world and disappear and kind of waste away bit by bit in front of you, is the cruelest thing in the world. Like,
and you transition naturally into more of a carer role at this point anyway. And when you think about caring for somebody, you're normally caring for them so they get better. And I guess all you can really do is make sure that he's comfortable. Was he in pain? Because I know that the brain doesn't have pain receptors, does it?
Not, it was always difficult. I mean, those last kind of few weeks, because we had nurses out morning and evening, and we could kind of call, and he was on a driver, and he was at that point having morphine and midazolam, which is a kind of an anti-seizure, but not exactly. It was sort of to mimic his anti-seizure. It's kind of a sedative, so he wasn't really with it much. And there were times when he'd kind of open his eyes and his breathing would get very labored and agitated, and like he would have tears in his eyes. And I don't know, like, I really hope he wasn't. It would usually be at that point that I would, because they always said, like, if he's getting agitated and kind of thrashing around, ring us and we can come out and up the dosage. And yeah, it would, you know, be at that point that I would make a call to the hospice and they'd send someone out and give him a bit of a bump, which is just awful as well, kind of sitting with him sort of, and he would be kind of thrashing a bit and his breathing would be really weird. And then they'd give him a bit more drugs and he'd kind of settle down. And then a couple of days later, we'd go through the same thing again. And then
I'm being tortured for all of you.
Yeah. And then you get to that stage where she's so conflicting and so emotionally traumatizing, where you just want them to go. And then you feel like such a horrible person.
Oh, you're not a horrible person. Why wouldn't you want the person that you love to not be suffering? You know, it's not like as soon as he's diagnosed, you're like, well, you know, it'd be better if it was just ended now. You've fought the pair of you as hard as anybody can fight, and ultimately it's only going to end one way. And yeah, almost everybody I speak to who's lost somebody to an illness has these thoughts. They all feel really awful about it, but it's human nature. That's the way of protecting your person as they transition across.
Yeah. And you just want them to be at peace now. You
Yeah.
know, it's,
Yeah.
you know, I remember sitting there with him and just being like, it's okay. Like, you can go. I'm going to be
Oh,
okay. Like, you know, it's
liar.
fine. Yeah, I'll be fine. Yeah, it's like I said, I don't kind of wish that on anybody. It's such a cruel thing to have to witness for anyone.
Are you comfortable telling me about when he died?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I again, it was a really difficult thing for me to kind of decide when he was, because he was down in my mum's bedroom and she was upstairs. So when that kind of happened, I was still sleeping up in my bed when I could. I think for me, I felt like if I'd have slept in with him every night, one, I was still kind of I mean, I worked from home up until literally like 4 or 5 days before he died. I loved my
Wow.
job very much, and it was a
Distraction.
choice. It was not, I was not forced to do that. My boss was incredible. He knew Andy. He's an incredible man, incredibly understanding. And I'd kind of said to him, if you're okay with me dipping in and out and still kind of keeping, because it helped me
Yeah.
stay sane, I think, and
Keeps
gave
you
me
in touch
some,
with reality a bit
yeah,
as well, or the outside world.
yeah. So yeah, I kind of felt like if I'd have slept in with him up until the point that he died, to then transition into our bed would have been really, really traumatic. And some people may not agree with me. I think there's no right or wrong. It's just what you feel works. So yeah, I'd gone to bed, slept really fitfully. His sister and his mother-in-law, his mother and his mum been in and out. And it was about 6 o'clock in the morning. And his sister came up to me, it's about 6:30. And yeah, she said he's gone now. I think it was around about 6 a.m. He'd just kind of
Just
slipped away.
gone. How did you feel? Did you wish that you were there?
Part of me did, but then I think I'd been there for everything and all of the things, and you know, having experienced losses, and you know, I was there for my dad's death, and I kind of think it goes the way it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And you can sit bedside vigil for days and days and days, and then go for a pee, or
Yeah.
go and get some fresh air, or
Make a phone call. Yeah.
I think it kind of happens the way that it's gonna happen. I kind of do wish I had have been, but then in my heart, I'm like, I'd been there for all of it, for everything. And I think sure, it was the day before, and I'd been sat in there with him. I played him his favorite song on the radio, and we sat there
What was it?
Hotel California,
Nice.
which we played at his funeral, which is what he wanted, in full. And I made everyone sit and listen to the whole thing before we left. Yeah, we sat and listened to that together, and I talked to him, and you know, I had that time with him, those moments with him. Then, I mean, after he'd gone, I kind of went down into the bedroom and kind of said goodbye. But for me, it was like I'd kind of already
done
that. Like, this is now, I'm quite a spiritual person, not necessarily religious, but spiritual. And this is just his soul and his spirit has gone now and will always be with me. But this is just the physical. You know, so I sat in there for a few minutes, but then kind of realized I have no regrets. I did all the things. I was there. I told him every single day that I loved him, and I hope he knew. I think he did.
It sounds like he did, yeah.
You know, we got to do as many things as we wanted to, as much as we could, and even, and we said it often, like even going through his treatment and everything during COVID, and lots of people said, oh, it must have been really difficult and blah, blah, blah. Like, we had a pretty good lockdown. Like, it was just us. And the weather was great. And the year previous, we'd bought a hot tub. And, you know, we got to spend so much. We used to have date nights where I would force him to get dressed up like we were going out for dinner. Cute. And we would sit at the dining table, and you know, we would sit and play Monopoly, which really annoyed me because he always won.
Oh, I'm very competitive with Monopoly. I get angry.
You know, but we had some great holidays prior to kind of COVID and our honeymoon. You know, I think I said it at his funeral, at the kind of eulogy, like, yeah, we did some pretty amazing, like, big stuff. He proposed at Niagara Falls 3 days before Christmas, and we went on a helicopter ride, and we swam with dolphins in Cuba and in catamaran we did some amazing stuff. But the sitting in the living room in our pajamas watching like back-to-back episodes of Bones during lockdown and playing Monopoly, or that, you know, me, he used to go mad, and it was just he used to wear these horrible baggy lounge pant things, and very rarely wore underwear with him, and he'd be washing up and I would pants him and then run up the stairs and he'd come chasing after me. It's that stuff that's
what makes a marriage, right? It's those things.
And no matter how frustrated he used to get, you know, the silly things like, do you have to squeeze the toothpaste from the middle? Well, now I know it annoys you. Yes, I definitely do.
Yes, I do, yeah.
Let's have separate toothpaste. Even the stuff that irritated us about the other, which happens, we still found levity in it. We still found humour in it. We still, you know, never really screamed or shouted or big dramatic arguments, or, you know, we never went to sleep on a crossword. We never, you know, there was always hugs and kisses and I love yous before bed every night. And so, yeah, like I said at the beginning, we had 8 great years, and that's more than a lot of people can say. So I think you're right. I think hearing you talk about those couple moments, that is what makes a love, a relationship, and it's those things really that you remember. The big things are, you know, they're icing on the cake, right? Yeah, but it's the day to day. It's being, you know, most people can go on a big, lavish, expensive holiday and have a great time together with no worries or responsibilities or the daily grind. But it's being able to live
in the daily grind, right?
The daily grind, and still laugh and still be happy and be connected and be intimate and find ways to make it work. And no, we never got round to having the kids, and I'm pretty sure that would have made things a little bit stressful. But, you know, there was still, for the most, well, pretty much all of our marriage, we were dealing with his illness as well, and we still found ways to be happy and live in the moment and laugh and, you know, enjoy the time that we had and make the most of all the time that we had.
What an amazing attitude, really is, to have gone through what you've gone through and still be able to be positive about it. I think that speaks volumes about you.
Thank you. It's not easy some days.
Oh, well, no, I know. And how did you deal with it? Because when you've been somebody's really primary carer for such a long time, and prior to that you've been their person for a long time, and then I know that you worked through, so perhaps it wasn't quite such an adjustment, but often people can feel a bit sort of out at sea. Oh, terrible analogy for me to use, where you sort of think, well, what do I do now? And because you've almost put your grief and your pain on hold because you're supporting the person that's sick. How did it kind of manifest for you?
It's been a journey, a really long journey that I'm still on, and I think I will forever be on. It's kind of how it works.
I'll paddle my raft alongside you, don't worry.
Like when people are like, oh, it's been a year, and I'm like,
yeah. I can remember going on to Widowed and Young quite early days, and I saw people who were like 7 years in and they were, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be like that. And here we are, 7 years in, still have a day in bed crying sometimes.
Yeah. You do, you kind of read that and you're like, no, surely
it can't possibly last that long.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, so I think initially, because he passed away in February, initially the kind of planning and all the funeral, death admin, all of the fun stuff.
Sadmin, I've heard it called, which I like.
Very much occupied me, and I'd kind of done it all when my dad passed away and for my mum, so that was kind of keeping me busy. I took about 5-6 weeks off from work and then went straight back. I said I loved my job, the people that I worked with were amazing. So I kind of threw myself back into that and was very, I don't know, busy, distracted, just head down, keep going, get through the year, get through year one. Like that was, it felt like this weird, not that I was consciously doing it, but almost a subconscious kind of mentality of like, this is a marathon. I'm just going to get my head down. I need to get through all of the first and all of the things. And sometimes you couldn't make my life up. It's ridiculous. Then in the November of that year, I was made redundant.
Shit. After all the support and everything. Oh,
yeah. And
no.
it wasn't just me. It was a big company shake-up. There was money issues, blah, blah, blah. And I think about 120 odd people from the business were made redundant during that time. I worked still in utilities and telecoms, and it was having a tough time. And yeah, a lot of us were made redundant. So I felt I applied for another job, a few different jobs, for another utility company. I was like, yeah, you know, I can do this, So I started that. So I think I took like a month over Christmas because I finished early December, and then I started the new job in January. I think I did about a month of that new job, and basically had a panic attack in the toilet one day. I was shattering. I was literally falling apart. Like it was long days. Like I was traveling. I was sort of a few days in the office, which was, I was having to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to get into.
God.
And I just couldn't. Like I kind of realized I've been head down. At this point, we're then approaching the 1-year anniversary of him dying. After many conversations with my counsellor, because I think initially I was like, I can't do this job. Not that I can't do it. I'm not in the headspace. I can't right now. So I think I spoke to them, and they were really understanding because they knew the history. And I got signed off for a couple of weeks initially. I was like, I don't want to make any rash decisions. Let's just see how this goes. And after the 2 weeks, I was like, I need a break. Like, I need to just stop. Like, I need to stop. I need to breathe. I need to figure out my head. So I quit the job. I'm still not working. Year 2 was really tough.
I think year 2 in some ways is worse than year 1 because year 1, you're expecting it. You often have a lot more support. But year 2, you're kind of in the wild.
Yeah.
Because not that people have moved on, but they have in so many ways, because and they were everything to us. They were everything. Yeah. And I guess people, until they experience it themselves, have no idea how long this damage lasts.
No, because and I try, and I have, like I said, I've got my circle are, I couldn't explain how incredible these girls and people, like I am so lucky. They get it and they listen and they hear me. It's one of the things that you said about Way, like, and I saw lots of posts of like, no one understands and I don't have any people. And I'm like, do you know what I have? Like this core kind of group of people are just my world and I adore them. But it is different. And there is an element, I don't know, like it's not just grieving him. It's the life that I should have had. I was supposed to have. It's the person that I was. And I'm not saying I'm not that. You change.
She's gone.
She's, the things that you worry about. I think I said to my counsellor, I was like, I wish I could just, what are we going to have for dinner? And this. No, it's so-and-so's birthday. And should I bake a cake rather than what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And am I going to be on my own? And how is it going to look? And, oh my God, I've got to fix the telly, but I can't get the bastard thing off the wall because you mounted it on the wall and it's not this fucking bit.
Yeah.
All of those, I've got this house to look after, which I am not a handy person. Like, you've seen my nails? Like, I don't do DIY.
I had to mow a lawn the other day. That was traumatic.
Oh my God. It's the things that I have to contend with and think about and deal with and process.
It's everything, right?
Yeah. And I think having lost my friend and lost my dad and that grief knocks you in certain ways, but when you lose your person, it's your whole life. Everything changes. You know, the kinds of TV that I watch, the things that I used to enjoy that I'm now like, eh.
Could you read? I couldn't read for ages afterwards.
I couldn't. Yeah. For ages.
And I love reading. I used to, and I can again now, and I would lose myself in books. So it was kind of one of my coping mechanisms. And then not to be able to enjoy that anymore. I mean, I drank a lot. Did you fall into that?
Yeah. Drinking
it's too easy. It's too easy because it's quick. It feels efficient, even though we know it's just batting it up the road. But particularly that first year, I thought I was dealing with it, but like you, I kept myself so busy. I remember my mum saying to me, "You've got to slow down." I was like, I can't.
No. I was, and it's something I worked on a lot with my counsellor, but and this was even before he died, and people were like, you need to feel it, you need to get, I was like, I can't, because if I fall into that hole, I don't know if I'm going to get back out of it again. I don't know if I can. So I just need to keep going. And it's something, I have fallen down the hole and I've come back again, and that's okay. And I can, and it'll be okay. And I'll probably fall back down it again.
But you won't fall quite as deep, and you'll climb out.
And I know, but it took me a lot of counselling and a lot of self-reflection to realise it's okay. I mean, my thing is dramatic, sitting in the shower and screaming and
lovely. I love a bit of that.
You know, and just,
in the car.
You've
already did the car, didn't you?
Love that. But it becomes, there are times when it almost becomes therapeutic. Like I get to a state and I'm like, I feel it. I need to let this out. I need to sit and sob and wail and scream and cry and be mad at everything, because I need to get this all out of me.
And you're so scared, aren't you? Because you think, well, if I do that, people will hate me. I'll look crazy. I won't be able to get myself back out again. And I think that almost keeps you trapped in a sort of limbo of grief where you're letting a little bit out. But like you, over the weekend, my daughter had a dance comp, and I was so proud of her. And there was all these proud dads there. And I could feel this lump here, and I ended up being kind of ratty and a bit snappy but what I really needed was to lock myself in the bedroom and have a good old cry. And my counsellor as well, she said to me, you know, because I have a real guilt if I'm not doing anything. So, and she said, you have, you know, there's power in stopping. And I know this is something lots of people have heard, but there really is. So Monday, I got home from the school run about 9:30. I crawled into bed. I set an alarm for 2:00 for the school run. And I just cried and slept. And it was a bit of a waste of a day. I've got a to-do list as long as my arm, but the to-do list wasn't going anywhere. It would still be there on Tuesday. And I think it's kind of making peace with the fact that you don't have to do it all immediately as well. Things can be done gradually. But and I think as women particularly, we're told, you know, keep going, don't show emotion.
No, don't show anything, and put a smile on your face. Just power through. And you're right. I think my counsellor, we call it sofa rotting. She's like,
oh, nice. You
need to sofa rot. She's like, you need to just stop. It's okay. Curl up, cry, watch trash, eat trash, whatever that might be.
I like it.
You need some sofa rotting time. But it is, and it's so hard. The guilt that comes with, I haven't achieved anything. I haven't ticked anything off my to-do list. I haven't, but you need to just be and stop. And, you know, I've found it really difficult to, and that's why I had a hysterectomy, because I didn't know until I'd had the hysterectomy, but I've actually had endometriosis and adenomyosis and a bloody great big massive fibroid. So I've had very, like I said, you couldn't make my life up, honestly. So I've had very, very painful periods for like about 10 years. So even going through that, like, to force myself to stop and rest and recover. And I think there's something in, we know to do that. Like, I've had an operation, I'm having to rest and recover and recoup. We know to do that when there is a physical issue. It's no different when there's a psychological and an emotional one. You have to do the same. You have to stop. You have to cry, rest, sleep, whatever that might be.
Howl at the moon.
However that looks, scream at a tree, you know, whatever it needs to be, but you need to stop and you need to feel it.
Just a bit of a personal question. It's off topic, but will you now be forced into menopause?
Hopefully not, because my ovaries are still there. So they kept my ovaries, but my fallopian tubes, my uterus and my cervix is all gone. So because it was, well, they didn't know, they knew I had a really big fibroid, but they didn't know about the endometriosis or adenomyosis until they removed it. So hopefully, no, it shouldn't trigger. It's only when they take your ovaries. So theoretically, well, in reality, I should still ovulate. But obviously nothing, I won't have a period or anything. I might, it's hard for them to know, I might start menopause earlier than I would have done. I mean, I'm 41 this year, so I'm hoping I've got a little bit of time
on the horizon. Maybe I'm perimenopause, and I've had a really rough ride with it. I think it, I don't know whether it was grief, but the low moods from the hormonal fluctuations, and they nearly sent me crazy, which is why I ask, because I'm like, oh, I hate to think of anybody else being. So if you find you're struggling, reach out. I've done a lot of reading.
And see, that was kind of part of the reason. I mean, I ended up going private to have the surgery because the NHS wait times and whatever. And when I'd spoken to my GP, the suggestion was put me on a pill or do there and the progesterone only pill. And I was like, what are the kind of main side effects of that? And she was like, oh, low mood. And I was like,
no, thank you. No, thank you.
No, absolutely not. Like, it's a daily battle to emotionally regulate myself as it stands. Like, please
do not throw any more petrol on that fire. Thank you.
Absolutely not. And even then, I think given what was actually wrong with me, it wouldn't have even touched the sides. So yeah, it was, it's been a bit of a trial.
You didn't have any well-meaning comments about, your husband can't have sex with you for a while?
Oh yeah, you do get that. And are you sure? Because there is still some time left to have a child. No. Like, seriously. Yeah, you get all of that fun, well-meaning comments, don't you? And is your partner okay? But I do then deeply enjoy no, he's fine with it. He's dead.
Yeah, I had we're really oversharing here. Sorry if there's any male listeners. I had my coil put back in because my daughter was 6 months. I'd had it taken out to conceive her, and then, like you, I have very heavy periods, and I was in a lot of pain. And I remember saying to my mum, I can't do this anymore. This is just the final straw. So I went into my local surgery to have the coil put in, and it was a nurse I knew and a nurse I didn't. We're chatting away, and she says, oh, tell your husband he'll have to keep his hands off you. And I could just see the other nurse across the other side of the room gesturing like, no. So yeah, I gave a full chapter and verse on that.
I do quite enjoy it. My girly friends, a lot of the close friends that I've got locally were from my company, and because they were with me through bonded in trauma, I think, all of us, and we've all got different tales of horror and woe and sadness, and we all kind of cling to one another.
I think that's friendships over 40, right?
I know, right? But they're like, sometimes it's your superpower. So we went out. Their favorite story, went to like an 80s 90s night in Colchester, and it was end of the night, and we were really drunk, and we're sat outside, real classy, on the floor, snapping like
McDonald's. They got chips.
Yeah, like 20 chicken nuggets, share a box that I'm stuffing in my face. And these kind of group of guys, hey girls, blah blah, like, do you want to come into town? And no, and they're kind of sat down, we're celebrating, and no. And I was like, oh, what are you celebrating? Oh, my divorce is final. I'm officially a divorcee. And I went, I'm a widow. And they were
did you see the dust?
Literally, they just evaporated. Yeah. Never seen a group of guys like, gone. And they were like, we love you for that. This is great.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, and again, sensitive, you might want to tell me, but are you tempted to date or anything like that?
I don't know. The thought of completely just me. I mean, I say that I've got my friends, and Sam and Dana, like my friend Dana, she's single at the moment as well, and she's like, it's fine, we'll be like Grace and Frankie, and we'll just have an after plan and blah blah blah. I'd like to think there might be something
somewhere in the future.
It's just the thought of having those conversations with a new person, and
even going back into the dating world, right? Like the thought of I'm single now, and the thought of internet dating, like, look,
I know.
So I think unless Hugh Jackman knocks on the door one day while I'm having my tea, then it's going to have to happen organically, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one of my friends, one of the girls, she's been sort of online dating and dabbling, and I mean, she's a bit younger than me. I am the old one in the group, which makes me sad, which apparently I blather about every time I get drunk. I'm like, and she's been kind of internet dating, and I'm like, it's not, I mean, she's had medium success, but I don't know that it's encouraging me. It feels just a bit.
It feels like interviewing for jobs and things.
Yeah.
And also the time. I haven't got time for that shit.
Yeah.
And the idea of having to tell your story over and over again. I don't even necessarily mean the widow bit. I mean just introducing yourself.
General, yeah. It's, I think, like you said, it's something that maybe might happen organically, or there's, you know, somebody that you get to know, but yeah, as it stands, you know, I've got my girls and I've got my 2 dogs, and, you know, I do all right.
I know I keep trying to persuade a couple of my friends that we should just move into a big house together and raise the kids like feral beasts.
I love that. I
mean, weirdly, nobody's that keen to live with me. I can't think why.
Rude. I mean, Sam and Dana have been here with me, kind of my in-house carers during my kind of recuperation.
They sound amazing.
And I love it when we're all together. We're so geographically like not nearby one another, which kind of sucks. Yeah, they're both, because we all kind of, originally I'm from Watford.
Guess what? I'm from St Albans.
No.
Yeah. How weird is that?
Oh my God.
Lovely little parallels. We probably went to the same nightclubs.
Probably.
What was the one in Watford? Oh.
It was Kudos, Destiny. Yeah, it became Destiny. I was going to say Kudos is like probably before I was allowed to go in there.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was kind of born and raised in Watford, and then Andy and I moved to Colchester. My mum had already moved here, my mother, but Sam ended up, because we all knew each other from Watford, Sam ended up moving to Salisbury, and Dana is in Bracknell, so they're both like 2.5, 3 hours plus away from me, which is
a little bit too far,
a bit crap. But yeah, Dana, often when she's here, she'll kind of scope out the back, because I've got quite a big garden. She's like, I could build something here and I could move in here.
Little annex, sure. Lovely. Yeah. Put a tent up, that'll do.
Be fine. So yeah.
And you must tell me if you're ever popping over this way to see Andy's parents, because I'd love to meet for a coffee, and you'd be so close by, it would be so rude not to.
Yeah. No, that would be really, I've not been, well, once I can drive 3 to 4 weeks, I'm sure I will be.
Of course. Yes, of course.
Visit. I've not been down there for a while, so yeah, it'd be nice.
Well, I'll drop you a message with my number on, so that you can let me know, because I'd love to see you.
Yeah.
Oh, Julie, I'm going to say it's been a real pleasure talking to you. It's been a really harrowing story. I feel like I've been through the emotional ringer, but the way you've told it with such grace and dignity, and the way you talk about Andy with so much love and compassion, it's this bit of the story that makes this feel so special. And I am incredibly grateful to you, as I am all the guests, for having the balls to come on here and talk to me, because it's a daunting thing to do. I hope it hasn't been too traumatic for you.
No, I was really kind of anxious, and I was like, should I be doing this? Is this crazy? Like, but
it's therapeutic though, right?
Yeah, and it is. And you know, I've never been backwards or awkward about talking about his death and talking about him, and because he was a huge part of my life, and it's you know, just because he's gone, it doesn't mean he's gone, never to be spoken about. And I love our story. Like, I love it. It's
important. We're the gatekeepers. We're the memory keepers. We have an obligation to talk about them, because otherwise the stories that only we know won't get told.
Yeah.
And I think what you've got now, and you know, this doesn't sound too sort of grandiose, is your story will exist forever.
Yeah.
So every story that goes out, they go out into the wide world, and they're there forever. And I just think that's a really nice legacy to leave for them.
It felt like a beautiful way to just honour this amazing man.
And you did as well.
Yeah.
Do you also, you'll go off and you'll be like, oh, I didn't say this, oh, I didn't say that, because you can't condense it into this time. You can't condense a lifetime into it. Oh, well, thank you ever so much for coming on today. If anybody out there has been affected by the episode, you know, you can message me, and I can certainly pass on anything to Julie as well. I will be back next week with a new episode. Can't tell you who it is because I haven't checked the road yet, but I will be back. And so it's a big thank you from me to you, and a big take care of yourselves out there to everybody else. I'll be back with you soon. Lots of love. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode helpful, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you think someone else may benefit from this, please do share. We'd also really appreciate a quick review. It helps more people find the show. Thank you again, and see you next time on Widowed AF.